Good evening. So let's all sit straight, be conscious of this moment, be conscious of our bodies. Be conscious of our presence here. Just realize you are here. We'll do the Shanti Mantra now. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Om Sahana Vavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahavityam Karavavahe. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. So the extension of the discussion we had in the last class, we will begin this class with an inquiry into two issues that some students raised during some discussions. I have addressed this to some extent before, but I would like to go into it again. The Dharma Purushartha, the goal of righteousness. Righteousness or doing what is right and doing what is supposed to be done and abstaining from not doing what is not supposed to be done according to an objective standard of ethics and spiritual laws that are given to us by the scriptures, by the saints and sages, by the tradition. Right? Now, that is the end unto itself. It is a goal by itself. It manifests or it is experienced by us in our everyday life as a sense of meaningfulness. For example, if somebody gives you a sweet, you have that sweet, it is an object of pleasure, taste, sensation. They ask you, did you enjoy the sweet? I say, I enjoy. That means the taste of the sweet is agreeable and gives a certain kind of a pleasant feeling inside. So a good sweet is experienced as a pleasant sensation of taste combined with a certain kind of a appeasement and probably some joy. Similarly, the effect of dharma is experienced as being in the right direction, the life feeling meaningful, feeling on the right track, and not feeling lost, feeling together. These are all the different symptoms that we experience when we are following dharma in a given context. Now, this dharma, we have spiritual dharma and common sense dharma. Common sense dharma, almost everybody understands. Any mature person with common sense understands. Mutually agreed upon universal values, human values, and all that. We all understand that. Special spiritual dharma is like, for example, if one has to have a haircut, it is recommended that it is done only on certain days and it is not to be done on other days based on the tithi, nakshatra, etc. And also some other conditions. Suppose if you are in Pitru Paksha 15 days, you are not supposed to do haircut. And after going to the haircut, you are supposed to take a complete shower, head bath, and then change the clothes. Now, there is no secular logic by which you can justify this. You can say that I go to a parlor After the haircut, the guy washes my hair. So why should I take a bath? After this, I have to go to a meeting, to a party. It is not some dirty saloon. I'm going to a five-star parlor. So why should I take bath? It's a very valid question from the common sense point of view. But from the Shastra point of view, it is not valid. It says you have to do because the spiritual laws, the rules are based on a different level of order that we do not perceive with our everyday normal terrestrial awareness. It comes from a deeper level of rhythm and reality. If we respect it, we can enjoy a certain unexplainable, deeper level of harmony in our lives, which cannot be tangibly felt. It is something like a shade, the comfort, the unwritten, the unquantifiable, intangible kind of comfort that comes when we follow the spiritual laws based on the recommendation from Shastra, Sampradaya, etc., and our gurus, etc. If you follow that, it brings in a certain level of harmony that is not very tangibly quantifiable, but it can be experienced in a contrasting situation when you don't follow. Somebody asked, why should we stop eating onion? A yoga student wanted to learn pranayama, mantra japa, etc. Why should I not eat onion? I don't feel anything wrong in eating. Onion has this quality, that quality. He gave me 100 nutritional facts about onion and garlic. I said, okay, fine. Let us not have onion and garlic for 3 months. And you come, and after that we will talk. Experiment. The person agreed, stopped onion and garlic and tamarind. There are a bunch of things. The person stopped that, and after 3 months came and said, and I said, okay, how did you see any difference? He said, I feel a little lighter, and I am kind of I feel lighter in my system, and I'm able to meditate better. I'm able to do pranayama better, and I'm able to think clearly. And I said, now you start eating onion. And then the person started eating back to the original diet, onion, garlic. And within 2 days, he said, now I understand the difference. So similarly, when we follow these spiritual laws, which are based on the subtle order of things, Sukshma Prapancha it is called, the harmony that you experience, that protection kind of a thing that you experience, that little bubble that takes care of you, it's like this, you will not realize its value unless you live in a place or you go to a place where the laws are not followed, where the spiritual rules are not followed, at dharma rahita, a place where there is no spiritual dharma being followed. Okay, acharam we say. If you are in a very uh, in an environment that follows acharam, you're going on for some time, it protects you, achara anushtanadi, and from there you get transplanted to a society or a community or a situation where there is no acharam at all. Then you will see how the people live there, how the mind is, how your quality of the mind is, and how the whole background, you will see that something is different. If a person has followed it properly and comes in a proper lineage, that person will have an instinctive understanding of something is missing. And then when you come back to your zone where you are following the acharam and everything, you can see the contrast, you can feel it in your experience at the subtle level, which cannot be explained by words and which cannot be proven in any scientific manner. So it is realized, the value is realized only by experience. It is something like, there is a dish called rasam in our South Indian cuisine. A mom or a granny or somebody does a very nice rasam. So some Karnataka people are Mysore rasam is very famous, at least in Tamil Nadu. So this Mysore rasam, it's very special, and probably some aunt or a granny or your mom, somebody in the house does that Mysore rasam in a very nice way, and there is a special touch. Let us say what you saw, what they say in India is the flavor of the hand. Kai manam we say in Tamil, the flavor of the hand, right? Now that cannot be explained. You cannot explain it with 100 catering degrees. Right? But when you have this Mysore rasam everywhere else and then come and have it, it touches you in a certain special way. Right? It is the same way with Dharma. Dharma Purushartha gives a certain kind of a very deep level of harmony in oneself, which can be appreciated only when you experience it, and which can be recognized as present or absence only in the contrast of adharma. Only when you get exposed to adharma and how that adharma affects our lives, affects our subtle mind and subconscious mind, our mood, and all that. If you really observe yourself, you can see the contrast. From that contrast, you can understand how it is. It's like saying the beauty of the shade, the soothing effect of the shade is the value of the shade is realized when you only when you go in the sun. So dharma is something like it's like a protection, unseen protection. Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Dharma protects the person who protects it. Right. So it is a unseen kind of force. It's an unseen hand of the effect of following dharma comes as an unseen hand of protection that is in us and around us. That reduces what we call as a randomness in our providence. There is a lot of randomness. They say to the extent in a country where dharma is followed correctly, the rains will come in the right time, in the right measure. When dharma goes down, the rains will fail, or they will come in the wrong time, in the wrong amount. The climatic situations will be very chaotic. There will be more natural calamities. In a society or in a country, in the land where the dharma is followed very well, the natural calamities will be minimal. Not that it won't be there. Compared to the adharmic place, you will enjoy some kind of stability. You see, in India, only now it is starting. All these El Nino, La Nina, and all that is starting to some extent. But we never had this kind of extreme weather conditions and all those problems, for a very long time. When you compare to many other places, the scientists will say, you are not in this continental shelf. There are a lot of explanations they will give, but there is definitely a connection between human consciousness and the weather patterns. The collective human consciousness and the weather patterns do have a connection. All the saints and sages of every native culture have pointed this out. The shamans have pointed this out. The Native American and the Native African and the Celtic shamans, all of them have pointed this out. The Druids have pointed this out. The ancient Greeks have pointed this out. Our rishis and yogis have pointed this out. Zen masters have pointed this out. Tibetan masters have pointed this out. There is a connection between human collective consciousness and the weather patterns. In fact, I read a very interesting thing. Albert Einstein talks about, I read somewhere that I don't know whether it is officially correct or not, but I did read that it seems Einstein used to say about the wave of pain, when there is a lot of commercial meat and lot of violence on nature from man, all that collective pain travels and it affects the rhythms of the earth, and it causes natural calamities like earthquakes, etc. It seems he has said something like that. Uh, the point is, all people of high consciousness have recognized some kind of a connection, an unexplainable connection between collective human consciousness and the weather patterns and the climate conditions. Right? So it is just to tell you that dharma as a goal by itself is something that we all understand. It's the question of developing a certain kind of sensitivity to it. Now, why to follow dharma when adharma is easy? It is too burdensome. What am I getting out of it? Is to be seen something like this. Apart from this protection, if you don't understand this, what I told until now, you can see this in another angle. If I compromise dharma in any context, it will lead me to more instability with respect to my experience of that situation and the experience of results and the experience of consistency and predictability and harmony. There will be lesser and lesser harmony outside and inside myself. In any context I compromise dharma, there will be more side effects for the same results that I am experiencing. Even in pleasure, for example, if you want to enjoy a sensory pleasure, one has to respect the biological laws that control our taste bud, the nervous system that takes care of taste and the quality of the mind and the subtle tones and everything else, right? And the flavor, so many things. So that is why if you see, the more refined a person's sense of taste is, there are more rules and regulations regarding the preparation and the way of consuming food. Now, you cannot eat in a Michelin star restaurant like how you would eat in a roadside tea shop. And when you're eating for some small what they call as a mess in India, small eating places uh, where you are just eating to fill your stomach and it's all in a rush, or you just munch something and go on the run. That is not the way you will be getting the joy out of the food. You might fill your stomach, but if I want to enjoy the food, it demands that I sit down, I be with it, I be with a certain level of appetite, and the food is prepared in a certain way, and I enjoy it within a certain level of freshness, and I eat in a certain way. I know how to relish it. I am more conscious. So I have to be more conscious and take care of certain variables if I want to enjoy a very simple thing like a pleasurable, tasty food. If I want to enjoy a simple, tasty dessert or a cup of coffee or anything, the more conscious I am, the more I am respecting the dharma of tasting and that experience. There is a dharma around that experience, around the pleasure, that makes that pleasure more pleasurable, and it's a more conscious experience. So the more consciousness I invest in it, the more pleasure I will be able to derive from it, and lesser will be the side effect of it on my system, and I will be able to repeat that experience in a right frequency. So as much as I enjoy something, it also becomes necessary to abstain from that enjoyment for a certain period of time, so that the same pleasure continues to have the same level of psychological and sensational value in my system. Right? If I want to have the same pleasure and sensation and the delight from that experience, I cannot repeatedly indulge in that experience. I will have to wait and give a sufficient gap to enjoy that experience again. And I will have to follow up that experience with other things and come back to it. It's like when you go into a perfume store, you smell a perfume, their effect on your system. Then they will ask you to smell coffee beans, and then you can smell the other person. Right? It's because the faculties of pleasure, the sense faculties, can take only so much. So, too much of indulgence without respecting dharma will make will will make you get less and less joy, pleasure, and satisfaction out of the same indulgence. You will require more indulgence and more sensation in order to obtain the same level of satisfaction. And as the cycle continues, your body and the faculties and the nervous system will get weaker and become incapable of that enjoyment. So, even if I want to enjoy pleasure, there is a dharma that I have to respect in order for the pleasure to be pleasurable and sustainable. Right? So, not following dharma is like not brushing my teeth. By brushing my teeth, I won't get anything. But if I don't brush my teeth, I will get a lot of things which are not pleasant. This everybody can understand. If you don't understand the positive sides of dharma yet, if you are not able to understand that, but those who have developed a certain subtle sense in them, probably they will understand the first point I said. But if you don't understand that, you can always try to see that and extrapolate from here. My simple everyday pleasures, the joys, little joys of life, if I observe correctly, all of them have their own rules. Only if I respect those rules, I can enjoy those pleasures. You see that. And how going for kama purushartha, which is pleasure and enjoyment, without respecting the dharma purushartha, is going to be counterproductive even for the same enjoyment. This everybody understands. So from here you can project to see why it is important to follow dharma, because compromising dharma will lead to undesirable consequences. You can start from there, and eventually, as you follow dharma, as you develop that subtle sense and develop more and more sattva, it means a finer and finer level of consciousness. Over a period of time, you will start developing the sensitivity to the intangible protective hand, that force, that spiritual force that dharma creates, that takes care of it. Right? So one can start feeling that actually it starts becoming more tangible. What is indescribable and intangible becomes more tangible and more palpable. You can feel it in your life, that unseen hand. And also you will feel on track and you will feel more meaningful, and nothing can disturb you. And you will have a certain inner sense of uh, there is a certain deep seated intelligence in all of us. When that spiritual intelligence awakens, you know, it will give you the sense of what is right and what is wrong. It will start developing. It is a certain consequence of sattva. Okay, it is not a pramana, it is not a valid means of knowledge. Shastra is the valid means of knowledge. But still, one develops this subtle sense, a kind of an intuitive sense of what is right. And you can always recheck. You can recheck it with the scriptures or with the tradition or with the objective standard, and it will usually match. Right? So until that comes, one can focus on why it is important not to compromise dharma, instead of focusing on why I should follow dharma. Why it is important to not compromise dharma, because of the undesirable consequences. That could be one approach. And human beings have, like I discussed in the last class or in the class before, if I ignore conscious dharma, I will not be natural like animal. Animal has the dharma programmed into its system. It will follow the dharma whether it likes it or not. It does not have the intelligence to rise above, it doesn't have the sense of dharma, adharma. It is prakrita. It is called prakrita. But human beings develop what is called samskara and ahankara, the ego, and they approach what is all these purusharthas. Animals don't have purusharthas. Okay. It is, they say, you can say animals have the kama purushartha, but it's not such a very conscious striving. Yeah? For example, they say, aharam, maitunam, nidra. These things are common for humans and animals. Food, sleep, and procreation is common for humans and animals. But what distinguishes human from an animal is atma, anatma, viveka. Like that, the discussion comes in Viveka Chudam. And also, there is another point which says, among all the janmas, all the lives that you can get, the human life is very rare. Jantunam narajanma durlabam. Natapum tado prada, all that is there. But basically, Jantunam narajanma durlabam. Because here we have the development of a certain level of self-consciousness which becomes the gateway to freedom. This gives us the context for wanting to develop more and more that sensitivity to dharma that will eventually purify us and awaken us to the possibility of moksha. And if you are already awakened to the possibility of moksha, then following dharma over and above artha and kama, artha is wealth and security, kama is pleasures, prioritizing dharma over and above artha and kama, and my pursuit of wealth, success, name, fame, on all that, social connections and everything, and my pursuit of pleasures, if these two are regulated within the umbrella of dharma, and I am ready to compromise my social connections, I am ready to compromise my name and fame, I am ready to compromise my wealth creation, and I am ready to compromise my pleasures in order to preserve my dharma, right? So I am prioritizing. If a certain pleasure is rubbing against the dharma, I will let go of the pleasure and I will stick to the dharma. If a certain social gathering, social company, and all that, some friendship, it's all part of artha. Artha is security. So social relationships are also security. So it's also a form of wealth. So because, let us say, for example, a very simple predicament for people who come to yoga and all that, in today's internationalized global corporate whatever culture or the lack of it, uh, if somebody does not drink and does not smoke and does not eat meat, now this person is wanted less and less in many common social circles. This is a predicament that these people always face. Very legitimate concern because their social circle is uh, starting to become less and less, and they feel alone, too alone, left alone, and they don't know what to do with this need for wanting to social. So this can be handled in two ways. One is to create a sangha and a community of all the people who are committed to dharma. So you will have to find ways to socialize and connect to the communities and societies and the sanghas where similar kind of values, spiritual values are followed. Right? So that is one of the reasons why ashrams and other things came up. That is one. And also, you will have to see the real, you have to sit and think about what we call as pratyaksha bhavana, where we consciously think about the real benefits we are getting from that and how lasting are those benefits and how important are those benefits, because without a very clear benefit, nobody undertakes an action. It's the law of nature. Prayojanam vina mando apina pravartate. Even an idiot will not undertake an effort if there is no actual or even imagined benefit. The benefit may not come. They might have projected the wrong benefit on the wrong thing. So probably they end up getting frustrated. That's another story. But they undertake an action because they want a benefit, consciously or unconsciously. Okay. Even if you say in charity the benefit is for somebody else, the benefit is for you in the sense of satisfaction of seeing that person happy, right? So the benefit, even if it is not for you, the benefit is for somebody else. There is an outcome. Because of that, only any action is undertaken, right? So what exactly is this socialization, these social circles and belonging to this group? What exactly is it contributing to you? And contrast it with what exactly an alternative, a spiritually consistent socializing might do to you. There is always a transition process which is a little tough, I understand. But if you contemplate the benefits of spiritually consistent, dharmically consistent socializing against the limitations of dharmically compromised, already familiar socializing. I just want it simply because it is familiar. This is a problem many people have, because once you are used to something, once it is familiar, we develop a certain intellectual laziness to change it. We don't want to change it because the unknown is always scary. I am not very happy with the unknown because I need a real push or a motivation in order to jump from the known to the unknown. So the known, the familiar, they say a known devil is better than unknown angel. All this comes from this. The known has a grip on you because of this kind of an intellectual laziness which is inside us, that addiction to familiarity, addiction to the known. So that prevents us from taking enough steps to explore the unknown, to explore the new possibility. Also, once the fear is that, if I don't blend in with this group, even though I know it is adharma, if I don't blend in, then I might lose all my circle, friend, social circle, and I might end up alone. And that becomes a kind of a feeling of fear. Now, once that fear feeling, that emotion of fear comes, that assumes a force of its own. And once the fear comes, it has a force of its own. And it starts taking control of the buddhi and the thinking faculty. And that fear starts pushing your thinking. So it's a form of tamas, tamoguna. Fear is a form of tamoguna. It starts pushing our thinking, and all our thinking will be only to justify continuing to sustain that adharmic social interactions, simply because the fear is driving me to think, right? So that is the time when satsanga can really help. So you have to just take a break and say, okay, let me think about it in a different context, where I feel nourished, where I feel taken care, where this fear is not a fear of losing out, this fear of missing out or whatever. This fear is not operating. It is temporarily suspended, where I feel secure, I feel okay. So find a context like that, and in that context, think about it. Think about your adharmic social circle, and then you will be able to evaluate it in a more objective way and see how much worth is the compromise that I am making. I am, if I want to put it in a common new age, sorry, if I want to put it in a common new age kind of uh, parlance, I can say, is it worth selling my soul? Is it worth selling my soul in order to sustain this social circle? question you can ask when you are in a context where this fear is not operating. Right? So this is how we do satsangatve nisangatvam. Nisangatve nirmohatvam. Nirmohatve nischalatatvam. Nischalatatve jivanamuktihi. If I give a diluted interpretation of this for our current discussion context, by association with the right company that will reinforce your spiritual values and your whatever is the little bit of commitment for spiritual values that is sticking on here and there, if that comes up time to time, from time you get an inspiration to follow, right? So it's called vikshipta. So time to time it suddenly you get inspired. So this satsanga is something that will nourish it, protect it, and allow it to grow. That is friendly to this spiritual samskara. So that is satsanga. Satsangatve nisangatvam. It will help you to detach from all the unconscious factors that keep you stuck in a negative pattern of socializing or a pattern of adharma or whatever is that that you understand in a deeper level is not healthy, but somehow you are not able to free yourself from it. Somehow you are compromising your soul, you are selling your soul to be stuck, to propagate it more and more and to be in it. It has the force of itself that sustains it. You're bound to it, you are stuck with it, we say, right? So that is, you will be able to detach from that more easily with the power of satsangatve nisangatvam, detachment. And if you are able to keep away for sufficiently long period of time, all that subjective, illogical projections driven by your fear and desire, that is called moha. Moha is delusional thinking, a thinking that is not in line with the objective reality of a situation, but it is based on projections arising from fear and desire, fear or desire or both. And also from the negative samskaras and the subtle samskaras that you picked up, and the negative energy patterns that get locked into your aura. All those things will start making you think in a way that is not in line with the actual reality of the situation. That is called delusional thinking, moha. So, nisangate, with sufficient level of detachment, you will have nirmohatvam. Right? When this delusional thinking is gone, this time to time inspiration, which is like a flicker of light coming now and then, which becomes more and more steady. So, you will get more steadily committed and your understanding will be less wavering. Your commitment will be less wavering and your understanding will be clearer and brighter in your consciousness. That is called nischalatatvam. Nischalatatve jivanamuktihi. You will save your soul from that pattern, being stuck with that pattern. Jiva is your core nature, you the individual. You are freed from that pattern. Jivanamuktihi. This is a diluted interpretation for this context. Ultimately, it means about Vedanta, but I am using the same shloka for our purpose of discussion here. So, this can and should be done deliberately. This can be done and it needs a certain level of deliberate action. And you keep, like what I used to tell every time, have a standard operating procedure protocol. You have a few people whom you consider that these people are good for me. They are spiritually inspiring, spiritually guiding. This company in my life, this person, this Guruji, or this person's discourses, or this text like Bhagavad Gita, whatever advice or suggestions I get from here, I will try my best to follow it and put it into action immediately. Like that, you have a standard protocol. Okay? And if I want to make some decisions based on pleasure, based on some thing that I understand that it is based on my desire and fear and my negative patterns and my mental laziness, if you recognize that, you have a certain things, put a list of them. You have to make a list. When we are in a good common sense, good level of sattva in the head, some days are, you have spiritually good days. So in one of the spiritually good days, you make a list of the things, the negative patterns and situations in your life that you generally feel stuck when you are in a good sattvic state of mind. Make a list, and make a list of positive sattvic spiritual inspirations that come in your life, in terms of people, in terms of books, in terms of discourses, in terms of friends and relatives, and in terms of any spiritual guides that you may have. Right? So every time you are in the negative, when you are encountering an experience or a situation connected to the negative list, situation, people, or experiences, or desires connected to the negative list, pattern list, immediately connect to something from the positive list, spiritually positive list. You have a spiritually negative list and a spiritually positive list. So immediately you connect to something or somebody from the spiritually positive list and spend some time. You don't have to have any agenda. Just make a phone call, a message, how are you, whatever. Have a chat, or go and visit them, or go and spend some time in a temple and get some good vibes, or go to a kshetra like Arunachala, or like Rishikesh or Gangaji, depending on where you are, whatever is immediately accessible. You don't have to take a ticket from some foreign country and then come here all the way. Find what is immediately accessible to you in any, through any of your five senses. Either you physically go there or you contact on phone. Now the world is small, all world is connected. It is very easy to connect to spiritual things. One of the best things that's happening now. So find a way to somehow connect to any one of the things from your positive list, and take an inspiration from there and put into action something that you have agreed upon with any spiritual mentor or a guide, or any advice that comes from a spiritual text, or spend some time with a spiritually charged environment or a place. Do it for some time, and then come back to it and see, from the light of that, see how it is. You will develop a little more detachment. You will be more objective. The pressure to indulge will be less. The pressure to the pressure to belong will be less. The pressure to immediately act on that impulse will be less. Once the pressure is gone, then you can evaluate more objectively and see what is that. And also you can think, what could be the now, what can I replace it with? You know, I want this, but this is in the spiritually bad list. Is there anything from the spiritually good list I can replace it with, so that I will not feel dull and depressed or whatever, that I have lost it, which will also make me feel good? Can I do something like that? And then you do that, act on it. So when you make this a habit, this kind of protocol, when this protocol becomes part of your life in every situation, it becomes very easy to come out of negative patterns. It becomes very easy to detach from unhealthy social circles and all that. And your whole concept of I am living my life, it's like you have this thing, we have to live our life, we have to enjoy life. I don't want to miss out on life. That, I am living my life. That living my life thing is important, but it is also important that it is becoming more and more refined. Your definition of what is it to live my life should become more and more refined as we grow, and as we study and practice, and as we get more and more exposed to Shastra, the spiritual discussions. That definition of what is it to really have fun and have a good life, that definition should evolve over time. And always you can discuss this thing with somebody whom you consider more evolved than you, and try to see what they have to say, try to see what scriptures have to say. So research also supports this. Research says more pleasure and less meaningfulness when compared with more meaningfulness and less pleasure. The people who choose more meaningfulness and less pleasure are happier than people who choose more pleasure and less meaningfulness. These are the people who get depressed over time. Yeah, you are very superficially doing all the things that you like, impulsive, but the amount of happiness that you enjoy when you do some quantitative aptitude questionnaire and all those tests, right? Psychologists have found out the level of happiness they enjoy is much less compared to people who choose meaningfulness than immediate gratification. This is clinically proven psychological experimental fact. Now, meaningfulness, what I'm trying to tell you is meaningfulness does not always have to mean, need not always mean lack of pleasure. It is just for this, by pitching, this or that, for that sake, they did a research like this. But meaningfulness need not mean no pleasure. You can have meaningfulness and make it pleasurable also. You can have a pleasurable, meaningful life. You don't have to compromise either. And that is the secret of following spiritual dharma and improving our sattva, improving our consciousness, so that over a period of time, what is meaningful becomes equally pleasurable. What is spiritually relevant becomes equally pleasurable. Like whatever I am used to in terms of my old pattern, right? So uh, the importance, when all these things, you also have scientific research supporting it. So the importance of meaningfulness is directly related with following and understanding and following both the value of the eternal human values and the subtle spiritual rules and recommendations that are given by the Shastra and that are given by the masters, the spiritual masters and the Sampradaya. So when you learn to respect those things and incorporate some spiritual practices, and you also follow this, the protocol that the protocol of uh, replacing the negative trait with a something from the positive, spiritually positive list, so that our mind is like this, our mind is like a monkey. If it leaves one branch, it can leave one branch or one object only after it has grabbed on to another object. So deliberately following certain conscious spiritual activity and some dharmic activity is important to give us the ability to let go of adharma. Following dharma is another important reason to follow the dharmic rules is that by holding on to dharma, by holding on to the patterns within the scope of dharma, within the scope of uh, spiritual sadhana, within the scope of consciousness elevating practices and all that, holding on to doing something in this, creating patterns in this is important to replace the negative pattern. Important for me to let go of the negative pattern. It's like there is a Tirukkural, that ancient text in Tamil, which say, Patruga Patratran Patrinai. Hold on to the, or get attached, or hold on to the attachment of the one who is without any attachment. Hold on to that attachment in order to get rid of normal terrestrial karmic based attachment. Appatrai patruha patri vidatru. So creating and holding on to dharmic patterns and prioritizing them and being busy with dharma will help you to let go of your patterns, let go of the adharmic patterns, and it will liberate you from being stuck with adharma. Adharma perpetuates itself through darkness and the inertia within a pattern. So it becomes important to create another pattern that is driven by dharma, that is based on spiritual laws, that comes from the divine intelligence, that is more elevating, and it creates its own force, and that force will counteract the force of adharma and the force of the adharmic patterns that have come to us from all the past lives and our environment and hereditary and everything. It will counteract those negative forces, and it will give you the inner strength necessary to leave it and then to take the great leap forward in our spiritual journey, where the pleasures and the joys of the spiritual world, which are absolutely, it's another completely another dimension to which these normal terrestrial little joys that you are getting from indulging in some stupid adharma out of our temporary impulse, these things what you call as living your life, these pleasures are nothing, absolutely nothing when compared to dharmic pleasure. Especially, when we are taking care of the spiritual rules and we create a deep sense of conscious awareness, and we have a deeper understanding of the patterns of life, and we have a harmony with the spiritual dimension in the subtle world. We are in harmony with the subtle world, and what we enjoy at that level with a higher level of sattva is phenomenally better in both in quality, in quantity, and the time it lasts, in sustainability when compared to the normal tamasic and the rajasic pleasures. Because joy as an experience, it's a very simple mathematics. Joy as an experience depends on sattva guna. Only even in a very tamasic pleasure, the moment when you enjoy joy, there is a temporary situation created to enjoy a certain sattva, and it goes very fast. It is very fleeting. The problem with tamasic indulgences is that it is very fleeting, temporary, short lived, and it has negative side effects, and the consequences are bad, and it leaves an impression that is more binding and that is more traumatic in the end. Rajasic pleasures is the same thing, very fleeting, and it always ends up in frustration. But the sattvic indulgences are more lasting in their impact, and they are more qualitatively better, and the effects are very nourishing, and it improves our health. It takes care of us in so many levels and gives us the necessary level of maturity to break free from all the three gunas in the form of self-awareness and enlightenment eventually, right? So sattva is the quality to look for if you want to live your life to the fullest happiness. There is no choice here, simply because sattva as an experience in the mind, any joy that you experience in the mind. So if you are not in the right mood, you cannot enjoy a pleasure. This all of us know, right? So it is because the pleasure is experienced in the mind. The joy is experienced in our mind. So the quality of mind is important to have a certain quality of life. So if my quality of life should be in a way that is tuned for sustainable and intense and deep happiness, the quality of my mind should be more sattvic, less rajasic, and minimal tamasic. More sattvic automatically means aligned with the spiritual laws and the deeper subtle harmony that is inside us and outside us and in the rhythm of life. Right? So more sattva equal to more happiness. Like a formula. All we have to do is to remember that. So when we feel tempted for a tamasic indulgence and we think that is what is living life means, we have to just remember this is my delusion talking. It is against the simple equation more sattva equal to more happiness. If I feel this is happiness, simply because I am feeling this, simply because I am pushed, my mind is pushed by tamas. Because tamas is predominant right now, I am feeling like it. So let me see if I can shift my gear from tamas to sattva. Let me do some other passionate activity that is more rajasic, and then move on to more sattvic, and see if I can call up somebody who is known sattvic to me. I know this person as sattvic. See if I can associate with or do something from the list of the good sattvic things that I put it down, that are that are accessible to me, that I can also follow and that I also appreciate. From that list, is there something that I can connect to immediately, and just connect to it, and hold on. In a few minutes or in a day or two, you will become free from the pressure of the tamasic samskara that is pushing you in the wrong direction. Right? So that is how we go about doing it. So remember this equation: more sattva equal to more happiness. So whoever wants to be happy on a sustained basis, in a very comprehensive and a deep level, in harmony with everything around, and also to be able to spread happiness around, sattva is the way to go. And sattva, dharma, following dharma is necessary for more sattva. So because of that, I follow dharma only for my own happiness, not because some God is waiting to punish you if I do a dharma, not because, Varga, Naraga, nothing. Just for me to have more fun while I am alive, I have to follow dharma. The more adharma, the less fun over a period of time. The more dharma, more sustained fun, more high quality fun. And high quality fun means the joy is more lasting, and the joy does not compromise our health, physical health or mental health. The joy does not compromise our relationship with people who really matter. No? With other positive people, the joy that does not compromise the relationship, my relationship with spiritually positive people who are in my life. Right? So, so that becomes the way for more happiness. Dharma is necessary for high quality, higher quantity, sustainable happiness. So because of that, I follow dharma. So with that, we will conclude the class. I don't see any questions that are here. So with this, I will conclude the class. We'll do the Purnamada chanting. Or should I wait a few minutes for somebody to ask any question? Does anybody have? I will wait for 30 seconds. Any question that came up in your head during the class? Okay. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ तत्सते थैंक यू